Fasten your seatbelt. I am taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Go get him, kid.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
F. You're going to ask me. So you can go ahead and ask me what you're going to ask me. And my natural response could be to get offended.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right.
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. One movie each week, 30 years in the making. It is the 30-something movie podcast, and Pat, I won't do this podcast for less than 65,000.
65,000, John.
I won't do it. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't do this podcast for less than 65,000. You're offering 49. I'll take it.
That's right. That's right. 65. Let's practice.
Yeah.
60. No, 65. Yeah.
No, not a penny less. 49. I'll take it.
I'll take it.
All right then. We get you a parking space.
The best part was when he says 49, I'll take it, and the guy's like, he just stares at him. The guy that the boss or whoever, he's just like 49, and he was looking at him like, really? You're not gonna like?
Yeah.
That was a funny. I mean, I don't know if that was the cliche back then or if that was one of the first movies to show that, but I feel like I've seen something like that play out before.
Yeah. All right. Well, this time around, we are Defending Our Lives, the 1991 movie Defending Your Life. Before we jump into that, spoiler alert, we spoil freely, so just be warned. That's going to happen.
Yes.
We are part of the Scene Stealers podcast network, so if you haven't headed over there yet, go over to scenestealersglobal.com. They've got a pretty extensive list of movie and TV stars that if you are running a Comic-Con or some kind of an event and you would like to book these folks for your event, then you can reach out to scenestealersglobal.com. They also sponsor our show, so go over and check out. They've also got a kind of a podcast network. There's a few other podcasts that are part of that, so head over to their website and check that out. And while you're strolling down website lane there, you can head over to our website, which is 30podcast.com. There you can rate the show, you can leave a voicemail, you could become a co-executive producer via Patreon. And if you were to do that, then you'd get all kinds of bonus content. We put out a monthly episode just for Patreon supporters on there, and always so appreciative of the support and the love that our Patreon co-executive producers show us over there, just kind of because they're enjoying the show and just as a way to say thank you and support us. So we say thank you back to them.
Yes, wholeheartedly agree.
All right. Well, it is the beginning of, so as you mentioned earlier, Pat, you made it through October. Are you doing all right?
I'm doing okay, man.
Okay.
I survived. I mean, this October was more thrillers.
They weren't,
like
they weren't too bad.
Scary stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, I seemed to, made it work. Made it happen.
Yeah. No, it wasn't too bad this time. We're in November now, so we've got the first episode of the month of November, and that means we are jumping in the DeLorean. We are heading back in time, and we are going to this month in 91. So November of 1991, we've got some news here. Let's see. I've got November. Actually, a lot of stuff happened November 6th. November 6th, Russian President Boris Yeltsin outlaws the Communist Party.
There you go.
That's
glad, kind of a change.
Glad that was a long-term change that he made that really permanently stuck.
Are we going to become the Global Studies podcast?
Maybe. Hey,
it just might happen.
Hey, if anybody's actually listening in November of 91, I don't know how that would work, but if you are, spoiler alert. Anyway.
I'm just giggling. I'm just like over here laughing about everything.
About everything. History and politics and whatever. All right, anyway. November 6th, the last oil fire in Kuwait set by retreating Iraqi troops is extinguished.
Really?
So So we didn't start the fire, but we put it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of music videos,
I was going to say, speaking of music videos, and you made a simple statement that there's much depth to that statement as well. So, anyways,
Pat, I strive to be a simple person of depth.
Yes, a simple person of depth.
I'm not even sure what that means, but I strive to be a simple person of depth.
Yeah, I have to apologize by the way to our viewers. I feel like my rhythm's off. I've thrown the rhythm off of the podcast. I missed your drop at the beginning. Like, I didn't help you out with the whole, I'm going to say nothing less than 65. Like, I don't know. My rhythm's off, man. I got to get in the groove.
You're good. You're good.
I got to be like a football team where they're not getting out to the start they wanted, so they got to make the adjustments. I got to make the adjustments.
That's all right.
Figurative adjustments, not. Anyways, you know what I'm saying.
We're all fine here now. How are you?
Yeah. I'm okay. I'm gonna put it together though. I'm gonna build this up. We're gonna rally here, folks.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. All right. Let's see what else we got. Speaking of music videos, November 14th, Michael Jackson's Black or White video premieres on Fox TV.
Oh, I remember when that came out. That's
remember that
very
one
cool.
with Macaulay Culkin and Yep. Let's see what else we got. Births. We had a fictional birth on November 12th. We had in the 100th episode of Full House, the twins are born.
Okay.
And then, do you ever watch Full House? Were you a Full House guy?
I watched Full House. I mean, I don't know if I was a Full House guy.
Okay.
Who played the twins?
Wasn't that Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen?
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it now
related to the Olsen that's in Avengers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they're the older sisters or younger sisters?
They are, you know what? I think they're the older sisters.
Oh, now I see that. Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say they're like the older siblings of the Scarlet Witch.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah.
Very exciting.
And then, let's see what else we got here. We've got on November 1st, we have Anthony Ramos, an American actor and singer-songwriter. He played, I think he was the original Hamilton. He didn't play Hamilton. He was John Laurens and Philip Hamilton in the Hamilton musical. Okay. He was born in New York City on November 1st, 1991.
All right.
We had a few deaths, actually some big-name deaths. We had on November 16th, we had Ralph Marrero. He was an American actor who was in Dawn of the Dead, The Babe, and Johnny Suede. Dies in a car accident at age 33. Okay. We have on November 24th, Anton Furst, who was an American production designer who worked on Batman 89. Dies at age 47.
Okay.
Here's the big one though for November of 91. On November 24th, Freddie Mercury, the British singer-songwriter from Queen, he died of AIDS at age 45. So that was kind of the big one for the month. And then on November 25th, Eleanor Audley, the voice of the wicked stepmother from the original Disney Cinderella cartoon, dies at age 86. Oh, I almost missed one here. November 29th, Ralph Bellamy, an American actor who was in Rosemary's Baby, His Girl Friday, and Trading Places, dies at age 87.
Okay.
So lots and lots of deaths in November of 91.
Yeah.
Top sports for this one, November 7th was when, and I remember this one too. Magic Johnson announces that he has the HIV virus and retires from the LA Lakers.
I remember that. Yes.
I do remember that. Let's see. Top book was Scarlet by Alexander Ripley. I think it was supposed to be kind of like a sequel to Gone with the Wind. And then we also have top movies this time was actually for a little bit, for at least 1 week in November, The People Under the Stairs, the movie that we just did last week, was number one movie for a little bit. And then we also had Curly Sue, Cape Fear, and The Addams Family.
Okay. There you go.
Top songs this time. I don't know if you were before we started our recording, I was playing my little kind of 1991 playlist of songs before we started recording, And I had pulled some of the songs from the top songs of November of 91.
Okay.
One of the top songs, let's see, I think I got one of them here. This one is, if you know this one's Romantic by Karen White.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this one? It sounds vaguely familiar, but it's
That's
not.
what I was going to say. I feel like I've heard it before, but
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. I've also got Cream by Prince and the NPG.
Okay.
All right. And then we've got When a Man Loves a Woman by Michael Bolton. You want to sing it, Pat?
No, I don't want to ruin it, man. I'll end up ruining it.
When a man loves a woman, can't keep his mind on nothing else.
Can't keep his mind on nothing else, Pat.
Can't keep his mind on nothing else.
No. Hey, and you know what? If she is bad, he can't see it.
She is bad, he can't see it.
Yep. There you go.
There it is. There it is.
And then we've also got Set Adrift on Memory Bliss by PM Dawn. So anyway, taking it back a little bit musically to November of 91.
Cool.
So good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I will admit I've never really been a huge Prince fan. So of all those songs, the only one that I really could tell you that I know is When a Man Loves a Woman.
Okay.
So
Okay.
not as familiar with the rest of them. Like I know them. I've heard them. I know. I mean, I don't know all the words, but I recognize the other ones. But When a Man Loves a Woman's the only one that I probably would say that I know better than the others.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that song seems to get the most play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In just various spots. And I won't say I'm a huge Prince fan because there's going to be Prince fans out there that are like, really? And then that's just a disservice to them to say it. But that's not by, it's just I need to be a bigger fan. Like, I need to listen to more of his music because it's really incredible stuff. And especially, I really became a big fan. Here's me being a hypocrite. I really became more of a fan when I went up to school up in Wisconsin, because up in northern Wisconsin and Minnesota, especially because that's where his whole that's where he lived and that's where his studio was and everything. Like, he is a complete icon up there.
Yeah.
And it was just like everyone's like, why don't you listen to Prince? And then it was just like suddenly albums were being sent to me like, hey, Pat, listen to this. Like, hey, you got to check out my collection and then give them back to me. Yeah, he's pretty awesome. And I mean, like my biggest introduction to him was the soundtrack to Batman, because he did, there was the orchestral score, and then there was the Prince version, and I got the Prince one as well as the orchestral one, and that's where I really kind of got my introduction to him. But just fantastic music.
Yeah.
So it's good stuff.
All right. Well, our movie this time around is called Defending Your Life. It came out on the 5th of April, 1991, rated PG, with a runtime of 1 hour, 52 minutes, directed by Albert Brooks, who also directed Lost in America and Modern Romance. Michael Grillo was the producer. He did The Deer Hunter and Avengers Endgame. A writer for this one was Albert Brooks. He also wrote Lost in America and Modern Romance. Cinematography done by Alan Davio, who died in 2020, did cinematography for Empire of the Sun and E.T. Editor on this one was David Finfer. He did The Fugitive and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Music was done by Michael Gore, who did Pretty in Pink and Footloose. Budget on this one, not sure. Couldn't find it. Box office was $16.4 million, so not great. Not a blockbuster, we'll put it that way. Flick Metrics, which combines Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, and Letterboxd, gives this one a 75%, and CinemaScore gave it a B+. CinemaScore, we like to remind every now and then, remind the folks that CinemaScore was and is when people who actually see the movie are surveyed once they leave the movie. So that's kind of a, Flick Metrics, Rotten Tomatoes, some of that stuff. People don't have to have seen it, or they don't have to have seen it at the time it came out. CinemaScore is what were people's reactions as they were leaving the theater. So B+ for that one.
A tepid response to this movie.
Tepid is a good word for it.
Although I want to say the Rotten Tomatoes score was rather high. The critics' Rotten Tomatoes score was rather high. Do I have that correct?
I didn't go specifically look at that one. What was it?
John, I thought it was in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Did I get that wrong? I think the regular people's score was lower, but I thought the critics were pretty high in this movie. But that can also be critics as of late as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that would be actually kind of high compared with the rest of it.
I'm rapidly going to the Google machine to see if I know what I'm talking about.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell everybody else who was in this movie while you're looking at that. This was starring Albert Brooks, who played Daniel Miller. He was in Taxi Driver and Private Benjamin. Meryl Streep was Julia. She was in Sophie's Choice and Out of Africa. Rip Torn, who died in 2019, played Bob Diamond. He was in Men in Black and Dodgeball. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Lee Grant played Lena Foster. She was in The Heat of the Night and Damien, The Omen 2. And Buck Henry, who died in 2020, played Dick Stanley. He was in Eating Raoul and Grumpy Old Men. Daniel Miller is not having a good week by any stretch of the imagination. For starters, he died after he got hit by a bus. Then he discovers that in the afterlife, he has to defend his actions on Earth in order to ascend to a higher plane of existence. While awaiting judgment, he falls in love with Julia, whose near-perfect life on Earth seemingly makes her a shoo-in for ascension. However, Daniel's actions in his lifetime might not be enough for him to move on.
With a click, with a shock, from a chinga domina, something's coming,
From the beginning of motion picture history, Hollywood has tried to show you what the afterlife is really like.
Good afternoon and welcome to Judgment City.
You have any idea what's going on?
No?
Well, in a nutshell, you're here to defend your life, and I'm going to help you.
Defend my life?
Finally, wow, the first true story of what happens after you die.
Where am I? Is this heaven?
No, it isn't heaven.
Is it hell?
Actually, there is no hell. Although I hear Los Angeles is getting pretty close.
Didn't anyone ever tell you you carry yourself very stiffly?
Leave me alone, I'm dead.
That's life.
Albert Brooks,
You make me think of my little poodle.
it may seem.
Meryl Streep,
I think I might have been a heavy-set man at one time.
Rip Torn, Lee Grant, Buck Henry, in a new film by Albert Brooks.
So I'm on trial for being afraid.
Well, first of all, I don't like to call it a trial. Second of all, yes.
Now, but my heart runs wild.
If you see one movie before you die,
I love you. I love you.
This is damn exciting stuff.
see Defending Your Life.
Most people love it. Some it makes nauseous. Don't worry about it.
All right, Patrick, for this movie, we'll double up on our questions here. Is this the first time you've seen this movie, and how does this movie make you feel?
Yes, and good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm yeah, yes.
All right.
And
yes,
good.
yes, and good.
parenthetically, I looked at the Rotten Tomato score.
Yeah.
97%.
Wow. From critics?
From critics. 83% from audience.
I'm going to quote K2SO from Rogue One. That's high. It's very high.
Yeah. So, I mean, so I guess, and I think I saw that when it popped up when I was about to watch the movie. So I hope it didn't affect my judgment of it. But yeah.
Pun intended.
So actually, no, it didn't, because sometimes if it's high, I'm always just like, what the heck were they watching? And blah, 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 blah. So I'm kind of a little bit surprised at the tepid response from some of the other metrics that we use to measure our movies. So anyways, I digress. First time, I feel good.
Okay. Yeah, this was, you know what? The funny thing about this movie is I thought I had seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
And I had seen parts of it before. But when I thought I had seen it before, I was thinking of a completely different movie.
Okay.
So
that can happen.
Yeah. So yes, this is the first time I've seen this from start to finish, whole movie. I completely thought, because I remembered as a kid watching a movie, and the funny thing about when I think back to watching movies as a kid, I have these images burned in my mind, and maybe it's just because I've always loved movies, but I have these images burned in my mind, and I'm sitting there thinking, for me to remember that, I must have seen this movie several times.
Okay.
The movie I'm thinking of. But I don't think I did. I can't imagine watching the one I'm thinking of, the one I have in my mind. I can't imagine watching that multiple times. Why would I have? And it would have been at a fairly young age. So the movie that I thought this was before we were doing it for the podcast, I had in my mind a scene in a movie where there was somebody who had died and they were in heaven or they were in some kind of afterlife and they were waiting to be sent back to Earth. They were waiting to be reincarnated. And in this movie, while they're in the afterlife, they fall in love with someone else. The guy falls in love with a woman. And then something happens so that they are going to get sent back. And there's kind of this time constraint put in place where they're told, okay, we're sending you back. You're going to be reincarnated. You have to find each other within the first 30 years of your life. If you don't find each other within the first 30 years of your life, then you'll never be together.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, I think that. So when I saw Defending Your Life and when I just saw the briefest of plot summaries of Defending Your Life, I'm like, okay, reincarnated, goes to heaven, reincarnated, possibly falls in love with somebody. Okay, that's got to be this. How many other movies could that possibly be?
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently it can possibly be other movies.
It can. At least one other movie.
Because it's not this movie. So the one I was thinking of, and I had to go look it up because I'm like, I got to figure out what this is. This is driving me nuts. So apparently the one I was thinking of is a movie from 1987 called Made in Heaven.
Okay.
And it was, let's see, is it Timothy Hutton? Yes, Timothy Hutton, Kelly McGillis. Let's see, what other people are in this that we would know? There's a few other people that you would know from, other shows or other movies. Kind of some of them are like that guy.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's that guy. You don't really know who he is, but Tim Daly is in this. He was the voice of Superman in the Superman animated series.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, there's quite a few people in this. Tom Petty, actually, Neil Young and Tom Petty were in this movie.
Oh, good for them.
So, but so basically, that movie is the one I was thinking of. When I was picturing this movie in my head, that was the scene I was thinking of because I remember the whole idea of, before they get reincarnated, they're basically telling each other, I'll try to find you. I will try to, it's kind of like a Last of the Mohicans kind of deal. I will find you kind of a thing. Yeah, so that's what I thought it was. But apparently that's 1987, Made in Heaven, which now I want to see. Like now that I'm like, okay, well that's not the movie that I was thinking. Now I'm curious to like go find and watch this Made in Heaven movie. And I haven't really spent too much time looking, but I'm like, well, probably good luck trying to find it. Because it's not like one of those superstar movies. So usually that's
Right.
a little tougher to find when you're trying to go on your streaming services and trying to find where you can watch this. Although it looks like you can watch it on Amazon Prime for $1.99. So
Yeah, Amazon Prime seems to do a good job of, you're able to at least rent or borrow or whatever, and I have to say my local library is really good at finding those things. You know what I'm saying? It was one of the movies for this podcast. I remember, back when we were getting them, the library's like, I have to be honest with you. There are only 2 copies of this movie in the Chicagoland area.
Uh-huh.
And we're getting it sent, one of them sent to us. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty crazy. So
that's it. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of times how I would find these like really hard to find movies, would be to go through the library. And like, even if my local library didn't have it, then it was always like, all right, well, let's branch out and see who I can interlibrary loan this through.
Exactly.
So that's a play. I mean, it's not just because I married a librarian and that I always really appreciate libraries and everything else. This is the unofficial plug for go use your libraries.
Use your library. Exactly.
Which, oddly enough, I just went and I could find it. Let's say I could place a hold on this. Should I do it right now? This is kind of like an unboxing on the air.
Yeah, it is. This is very exciting. Are you placing a hold for it?
This is an interlibrary. This is an on-air interlibrary loaning video.
This is happening. This is happening.
It's happening right now. This is live. I mean, you're not going to get this kind of stuff from other podcasts.
No.
Yeah. No. Made in Heaven. They have a DVD copy of Made in Heaven. And I can pick it up, or they can send it to my local library. I'm going to click submit. Pat, my request has been placed.
John, you're in like Flynn.
I'm excited. I don't know what to do with myself now. Like
I don't know.
So this has been the 30-something movie podcast. Thank you for coming by, everybody. We hope to see you back here next time.
Yeah, cue the music.
Cue
Wait,
the
did
music.
you even give your reaction to the movie? Or is your reaction surprise?
My reaction was a little bit of surprise because it wasn't the movie I thought it was going to be. My reaction to finding the movie within about 10 seconds of looking on my library website is elation.
That's awesome.
But so I will say this movie, I was a little surprised because it wasn't the movie I was thinking. And I will say that this movie, what's the word I want to use? Because I will go in depth a little bit later. I will say this movie is cute.
Oh.
I will use the word cute.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had some issues with the movie.
Right.
But overall, it was cute. It was nice. It was, it didn't, it wasn't like the best omelet I've ever eaten. It didn't blow my socks off, but, it was cute.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a feel good romantic comedy, if you will.
Yeah. It's like a little furry animal.
Yeah. It's like the warm fuzzies, but when we used to did you ever do the snowflake events with the kids and they get the warm fuzzies?
I did snowflake once, maybe twice.
Okay.
So yes, the warm fuzzies.
Yep. Warm fuzzies. All right. Well, so we'll just go ahead and start off with the premise of the movie here. So basically, Daniel, who is played by Albert Brooks, it is his birthday, and we start the movie off. He's kind of thanking everybody for a gift they've gotten him at the office, and we kind of get from some initial conversations that he's a bit of a loner. He doesn't really have anybody to celebrate with on his birthday. He's going out and buying himself a BMW. So we just kind of get the sense that he doesn't really have anybody else.
Yes. Yes, he's very much a solitary life.
Solitary gentleman. And so he goes and he gets his BMW, and there's some funny moments there because he gets to the dealership and he's all excited, because he spots what he thinks is his car, and it's like, no, that's, this is your car over here.
I don't know how he made the mistake for that, because he had the convertible,
right,
and then all of a sudden they were looking at the hardtop.
Right. Well, he only uses 3% of his brain, Pat.
Yeah, though I'm aware of that. I also was kind of confused.
Once you use 4%, then you can distinguish between a hardtop and a convertible.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, and then the other thing that kind of got me is that why did he think he was missing out because he was getting the smaller car? I mean, It's like maybe more of a sports model.
Yeah.
Maybe better handling,
yeah.
or just buy the bigger model.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you're throwing down that much money anyway.
He seemed not comfortable with himself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he was unsure.
Well, and that's more, I guess that's kind of the message of the whole movie is he's not sure of himself and he's not comfortable, and I guess that could have been one of his 9 days that they looked at is like, hey, you should have gone with the bigger car.
Mm-hmm.
But you were too afraid. You don't want to spend the money on it, and so yeah, we'll get into that.
Yes, we will.
Pat, I have a question for you. There is
Yes.
kind of related to the idea behind this movie is the whole idea of kind of overcoming fear and being more confident, and that's kind of the message of the movie, which fits well. And I knew roughly this quote. I had to go look it up just to make sure I got the wording correct. Bertrand Russell, one of his famous quotes is, "To conquer fear is the beginning of wisdom." Do you agree with that, Pat?
To conquer fear
is the beginning of wisdom.
That's the problem with those short little quotes, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always, they're only the kind of the tip of the iceberg. To conquer fear is the beginning of wisdom. Okay, yeah, I guess, the way I would interpret that, because it sounds like it was made by a much more intelligent person than myself, said the quote first, but I guess, conquering fear would mean going out, getting experiences with various parts of life, whether it's, the mundane or the dangerous or the, whatever it is. And then, if wisdom comes from a life well lived and, you're kind of wise in the ways, what I'm saying is, as opposed to like book smart, but like kind of almost more of a street smart, wise human individual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you conquer your fears, you're more apt to go out and get those experiences, which then translate into being a wise person is maybe what the person that was it the author? Wait, who came up with that quote again?
Bertrand Russell.
Okay, so I would imagine that's what that individual's going for, but I could be off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think that this movie, like that's its driving point is like whoever, Albert Brooks wrote this movie. I almost feel like he saw that quote or read that quote by Bertrand Russell and was like, hey, that's a good premise for a movie. Let's go. Mm-hmm. Let's have my character here. He is the whole idea of wisdom and gaining wisdom and living your life right, and then attaining that higher plane of existence is going to come from overcoming your fears. So I almost feel like that was his starting point. Like this quote is just the perfect starting point for this movie. Now,
okay.
I don't know that I agree with that quote. I don't know that I'm in 100% agreement with that. Then I went and kind of looked up some other ideas like, well, what do other people say? Because this is a very, I'd say this is a very spiritual movie. So, very philosophical, very spiritual. So I went to a couple of other spots and, you have some of the philosophers like Plato and Aristotle. And I think they would have argued that, the beginning of wisdom is wonder. It's curiosity. It's, those type of ideas that if you are a curious and, what's the other word I'm thinking of? If you're a curious and willing to learn kind of person, open to learning experiences, then that would be the beginning of wisdom, according to some of our famous philosophers.
Okay.
You and I are both people of faith, and I think that we have the belief that, I'm not going to speak for you, but I think we have the belief that the idea of awe and reverence are the beginning of wisdom. So, which I think you could kind of align that a little bit with the idea of wonder.
Okay.
I think I don't think that's too much of a stretch to say those are pretty closely related.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know if the idea of, and maybe that's where I have some parts of the movie where I bumped on a little bit, to use Jeff's phrase, is the whole idea of, well, all you need to move on, all you need to attain this higher plane of existence is just overcome your fears.
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're starting with a premise. I mean, I it's a movie, and I'm not somebody who's going to take torches and pitchforks to a movie just because I don't believe the same thing that the movie itself believes. I personally don't believe in reincarnation. Don't believe in some of those things. So I think there's just some of the initial premise of the movie I just don't philosophically agree with. And so I think that's where at different points in the movie, when he's trying to defend his life, and it comes up with things like, well, you were too afraid to ask for more money, or you were too afraid to speak in front of this large group of people, or you were too afraid that like all these things. And especially the ones where like when he didn't buy the Casio stock, it's all those different examples. And I'm sitting there going, wow, the afterlife seems kind of petty. Like it seems petty and superficial. Like, is that really, I really hope that's not what we're judged for, because I mean, I've made some decisions that I fully thought were the right decisions to make. And sometimes financially, I was like, I did my research. I thought it was the right decision, but, I'm maybe a little bit more of a cautious person when it comes to some of those types of things. Could I have made a lot more money if I had invested in GameStop earlier this year? Yeah, absolutely. I could have made a ton of money if I had done that. But I was also looking at it going, okay, GameStop, and no offense to anybody who works at GameStop, like their stock is in the toilet. I'm not buying stock in GameStop. Like unless I have a nickel that I wanted to waste on something, I'm not buying that. Which I don't think, to use that example, I wouldn't like that if somebody came back and said, well, you know what, that was you being driven by fear. And that's going to prevent you from moving on and attaining a higher plane of existence and using more of your brain. You know what? I don't know that caution is a sign of lesser intelligence.
Yeah, and I know, and it's hard when a lot of the examples are about making money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So that's part of what I had a little bit of a problem with this movie. So, I mean, the rest of it was funny. It was, all those other things. And that's why I said cute. It was a cute movie, but it was just some of those things, especially when it was you could have reached a higher plane of existence, when you could have made more money. You could have done this. Like, what if money doesn't drive you? And should money, especially if we're talking about a spiritual higher plane of existence, where when you use 53% of your brain, you just don't care about the things of earth. Well, then why is money a factor in moving to a higher plane of existence?
Yeah, I hear you.
I know we're talking about a comedy movie, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm taking this comedy movie too seriously. But that was just in the movie while I'm watching it. That was something that I was like, I don't jive with that.
Right.
So no, I'm not taking a comedy movie too seriously. I'm focusing on that for the purpose of reviewing it for our podcast.
I was going to say, I think the stock market is kind of it's a hard thing to put in there because I know what they were going for, but I mean, the idea that you're going to invest big and make it all, make your millions in the stock market with one investment. Not that anybody in the listening audience, I am not qualified to hand out investing advice, just so you know, but I think that's a little bit of I don't know, fallacy maybe is the wrong word, but I think that's a little bit a little bit of the pipe dream type of thing, when in reality, the best way to do that is just good consistent investing, having a plan, and kind of like not making those emotional decisions, like investing for the long term and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, even that, it wasn't, I think I'm just kind of using more words to describe the same thing you just did. That really wasn't a bravery thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the stock market, and it was asking for money and all that. Now, standing up for himself when he was a kid, I mean, that, I think if they would have continued that thread through, you know what I'm saying? I think regardless of money, just standing up for himself, almost like the George McFly standing up for Biff at some point in his life. I think that would have been a little bit more of a powerful picture, but I think it can I think it takes the audience out of it a little bit to be like, okay, it's always about money, Yeah, just like you said, that wasn't maybe the strongest case for him.
Yeah, that was just that. Those were the times when he's going through and defending his life. Whenever it focused on that, I was like, no, you kind of taking me out of it now. Like, I'm along for the ride with, like you said, the scenes of him as a kid getting bullied, or, even a little bit the public speaking one, or trying to get the better salary and all that other stuff. But I don't know. It just, the money stuff kind of took me out of the whole idea of trying to rise to a higher plane of existence. I'm like, shouldn't money not matter if you're
right?
Yeah. Which, oddly enough, and I know it's for the humor factor of everything, which, oddly enough, the whole idea of Judgment City having different types of hotels based on how you lived your life, and different chocolates on your pillow, depending on how you lived your life. And
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an afterlife. So, like you said, it's something that we think about and consider, but it's almost more of a, how should I say it? A secular afterlife, if that makes any sense at all. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a little bit more of a...
It's whatever country club you could afford to get into.
Yeah, something like that. And it almost reminds me a little bit, almost of the movie The Adjustment Bureau.
Uh-huh.
If you saw that one, where, we are dealing with an afterlife and spirituality and all that, but it's a little bit more of a kind of closer to what we have in this world. There's a plan, we've got to follow it. It's almost more scientifical and precise than something that's like about faith. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and I tend to like these stories and movies, and I very much enjoyed this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But that's always, whenever they're shown, the afterlife, sometimes it's like, okay, well, that might be your opinion of it, but that's not quite, what I think it's going to be. And, it's easy to probably get jammed up on that stuff.
Yeah. So he's in Judgment City. The other thing that he keeps doing throughout the movie that I'm like, I almost wish they would have gone that route rather than focusing on overcoming fears. I wish they would have kind of gone the route of, maybe instead of, if it's going to be a very kind of like secular, how do you, like, self-improvement, self-betterment, all these other things. I almost wanted them to go the route of him being honest with himself, as opposed to fear. Because the one thing he kept saying throughout the movie, and I kept sitting there going, no, you didn't, buddy, was every time somebody says, like, how did you die? He's like, oh, I was hit by a bus. No.
Right.
I mean, yes, you were hit by a bus. You're kind of omitting the whole idea of you dropped something, you didn't pay attention, and, because it's 1991, there's no lane departure warning on your car. You hit the bus, friend. You veered into the other lane and you hit the bus. So yes, the bus did hit you, but it's because you were in the wrong. And so I almost kind of wish that they would have gone that route instead, of him. I think you could have followed the same scenes. You could have followed the, I'm trying to stick up for a higher salary. I'm trying to show that when I was a kid, I was showing restraint standing up to the bully, because that's because I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in violence or whatever the case might be. I think I almost would have liked it better if it was more about be true to yourself. You know, whoever you are, be true to yourself, not as much about overcoming fears.
No, I agree with you. And it did seem to take the route more for comedic effect, or comedic effect. And the other thing was the lawyers. Like, I didn't fully understand, why did he keep getting the different advocates? You know, some that were present, sometimes he advocated for himself. I thought, were they all part of it, trying to get him to stand up more for himself? You know, like, I didn't fully understand how that piece fit in.
Yeah.
And there's been some other movies, like or shows rather, like The Good Place. I was a big fan of The Good Place, and I think they did a nicer job. Now, a series, it's kind of an unfair comparison, because they can go a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
But they really explored that idea of, okay, how do you better yourself? How do you move on? How do you, you know, and yeah, so like I said, this was cute, and it got you thinking, but it was very much like, it was a very overly simplified thing.
Yeah.
Because all that stuff he went through, and ended up not really being mattered. Not being mattered. It never really mattered. Right. As long as he was going to stand up at the very end and do the, you know,
yep.
That's all that mattered.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you said, it would have been nicer to have it be a little bit more than just that one time that I'm going to stand up and brave the electricity coming off the tram and go tell the girl I love her and all that kind of stuff. It would be nice to see him.
Yeah.
To see him grow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, so a couple of the other things, you know, when he meets Julia here and he starts to kind of fall in love with her, and you get the kind of the initial sense when he sees her in that comedy club, and she's like, she seems to know him. And I don't feel like they ever really come back to that. Like I would assume the idea being that maybe they knew each other, you know, during one of their past lives. In fact, I think they kind of tease at that a little bit when I think in one of the past lives didn't she say that like he was a tailor and she was was it like a clothing designer or something? I feel like there was one of their past lives where they could have possibly intersected. But yeah, so the first time she sees him, she's like, "Don't I know you?" And there's kind of the idea that maybe in one of their past lives they could have possibly known each other. What's that called on? Is it on Craigslist? You have the missed connections on Craigslist when like people put up messages. They're like, "To the person that I saw on the bus the other day, I thought you were really cute," and I don't know if that's what that's called or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure what the Craigslist.
I'm asking the wrong guy. You're not even on Facebook.
No, I am the wrong guy for that.
I'm asking Pat Canigallo about social media questions.
Yeah, something just froze over. The freeze over would be happening.
It was my understanding there would be no tweeting during the podcast.
Yeah. You know, that it was interesting because, again, that was another concept that I feel that they explored in The Good Place, and that's the idea of, like, soulmates, you know?
Yeah.
Or even with Reincarnation, the movie Cloud Atlas,
yep.
and how, you know, characters or whatever your life force or whatever it is, how it has a way of popping back up, or certain people will find their way to each other, you know? And like I said, that was, you know, they introduced it in this, but again, it was very, not superfluous, very mile wide, inch deep kind of thing. You know, it was a cute story. It was fun. It was, oh, they found each other, but they really don't go in depth with the, well, how were they soulmates?
Yeah. I did want to point out that the moment you said the word life force, I was like, no, that's a very different movie.
Yes.
Have you ever seen the movie Life Force?
I have not seen the movie Life Force.
Okay. Patrick Stewart is in it, and it's from 1985. Let's see, Patrick Stewart, and there's a few other people that are in this. Directed by Tobe Hooper, who is the guy that did like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. He did Poltergeist, so he's kind of known for different horror movies. But Life Force is one of the early canon films.
Oh, geez. That already paints a picture. That's all you needed to say. It was a canon film.
Yes. So it is already like all kinds of crazy. If we never checked it out for the podcast because that would have been our first year we were doing things. So Life Force, 1985, a British sci-fi horror film. That's awesome. It was a canon film. So that tells you some of the stuff you might need to know.
That's it. Right there.
No.
Well, yeah, I just think, and I think our common theme in this discussion, if we have a thread, if we have a theme, is that we just wanted a little bit more world building almost. Give us a little bit more of how and why and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
there was, I did find a quote from Albert Brooks. He said that he had worked on this story for a couple of years, and he was quoted as saying, "I wanted the equation to be a non-religious, non-heaven-like afterlife. And I think the most interesting thing about the movie is what it says about Earth. Self-examination got a bad rap with all the yuppies turning inward. I think it's an important thing to do." So, yeah, I think that could have been. Yeah, I think if you had looked at that as the whole idea of the fear, I just don't know if that worked for me as a path to self-examination.
Yeah. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
And I mean, we picked up on that right away because didn't we say this is kind of a secular version of the afterlife?
Yep.
Just more depth, more explanation, higher stakes, maybe. Or like you said, it kind of cheapened it a little bit when it came back to be about money.
Yeah. There was one thing that I did find in the trivia section on IMDb that was a little sad, maybe a little morbid. When he's in the comedy club and that one comedian is up there and the jokes are just not funny at all. So basically it's the comedian asks Daniel as he's going around and like trying to get people to interact with him. The comedian asks Daniel how he died, and Daniel says, "On stage like you."
That was pretty good.
That was pretty
Cold,
good.
but pretty good.
Yeah. And then later, when Julia's like, can we leave? Can we go somewhere else? And he's like, "Oh, I can't leave before the end of the act because this guy's my dad." And she kind of looks at him like, "Oh my God, really?" And he's like, "No, I'm kidding. That would be so sad for me." But apparently that was kind of an internal joke because Albert Brooks's father, whose name was Harry Park, was a comedian who died on stage just after he finished a comedy routine that would have been similar to this guy.
Huh. That is a little bit morbid.
Yeah. So a little dark, a little morbid maybe, but yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And this guy did it to himself in the movie, right? Because he was the writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you have it. As you were mentioning other reincarnation type movies or movies that feature that, I would be remiss if I did not mention my favorite one, probably of all time, that touches on that topic would be What Dreams May Come.
Yes, a very good movie.
Love that movie. Love the whole visuals of it. Robin Williams is great in it. Annabella Sciorra is great in it. I love that movie. And that movie, that movie was actually one that made me think of. I remember one of the first few times I saw that movie, because I've seen it many times now. Spoiler alert: that movie at the end, when they decide that they have the option to stay in heaven, or they also have the option to go back to Earth and try to find each other again and fall in love. And I remember watching that movie, and I was like, "Wait a minute, that's like that movie I saw as a kid." Like, what movie is it? So I remember watching that back when it came out, I think was high school or college. And I remember thinking about that then. I was like, there was a movie when I was a kid that was like, these people fall in love, they get reincarnated and have to find each other.
you are bound and determined to it's like that's your reincarnation movie.
It's fate. Like I have to. So
something.
I'm glad that I got the interlibrary loan for this now.
Yeah, something is drawing you to that movie.
Mm-hmm. I don't even know if it's a good movie, but I guess we'll find out.
I tell you this, I'm having some deja vu. Did we talk about reincarnation in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I feel like there was a movie where we did talk a little bit about reincarnation. It's maybe been more than a few weeks. I'm blanking out. I'm blanking out on what it would have been, but
yeah, but I remember kind of some of the same beats. The reincarnation movie that I really enjoy is the movie Soul. I don't know if you've seen Soul.
Is it that animated one?
Yes, Pixar.
No, I haven't yet. I want to see that.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And the message is just so deep. Don't want to do any spoilers, but it's almost to the point where they're like, dang, are they going there? Like it hit me right like square between the eyes. Like when I still think of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, like they made this movie for me at this time in this place. And it's really the way they do it. And then also it does hit on that whole exploration of who you are kind of a thing that I think you were wanting in this movie, or that they were doing in this movie, but it hits it on a very deep level.
Yeah.
A very non-superficial level. I mean, I'm trying to say this without giving spoilers, but
we'll just tell the people, go watch the movie.
Go watch the movie.
Yeah.
But it's like you're saying, I just wish it wasn't always pertaining to like money and it seems superficial. Yeah. Like even, okay, even if it's going to be about stand up for yourself, get a better job or higher pay for your job. But I mean, this goes so far. I mean, it's like the wading pool and the ocean. Mm-hmm. I mean, in terms of depth, how Soul envisions that, how do you judge your life? So anyways,
nice.
I don't know if I mentioned that last time, but yeah.
Okay.
So maybe I'm going to just watch that again tonight when we're done.
There you go.
And just process. It's pretty amazing.
I went to go look real quick. I bet that we talked about it when we talked about the movie Dead Again.
Yes.
Because that was that one that we did back in September, and that was the Roman and Margaret, and one murdered the other, or it seemed like one murdered the other, and then they got reincarnated later on, and they kind of had to like figure out the mystery of, of who murdered who and all that other fun stuff. So I bet that's when we were talking about it.
Yeah, and you know what? As you're describing it, I'm just not remembering that movie.
Oh yeah, it was the one with Kenneth Branagh. Do you remember that one? That was the one with the scissors. Like the scissor imagery was everywhere, and they were like murdered with the scissors. And it was Kenneth Branagh, Emma Thompson, Robin Williams was in it.
Now I remember it.
Yeah.
Now I remember it exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I think that was the episode when I first started using the. Was that the one where I first started using the when we had the murder sound effect? I think so.
I think that was it.
I think that's when I added that one. Scissors and murder. Well, actually, that's what it says in the description. I pulled it up on our website. And I said, Roman and Margaret are deeply in love. Mike and Grace just met, and she doesn't even know who she is. Their problem? They're all the same people, separated by decades, reincarnation, and murder. There you go. So go listen to episode 372 if you want to check that one out.
Yeah, good use of sound effects on that one.
Yeah. Lots of scissors, though. Lots and lots of scissors. All right. Patrick, do we have anything else we want to say about this particular little gem, about defending your life? Do we feel like we've defended our lives enough and properly?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was a good movie. It was a fun movie. Yeah. Definitely worth a watch. It's not, you know what? And here's the benefit. Like, you can watch it and kind of just, oh, yeah, cool. I'll think about it and enjoy the performances. And I don't know how much this one is supposed to get you to think about defending your life.
Right.
As opposed to just kind of seeing a cute love story.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the other thing I was going to mention too, is that, and the movie was fine. You know, I enjoyed watching the movie, so I don't want people to think I didn't like it. You know, it's not like Point Break or something, but, if it was, so I had to throw that in there. The one other thing that kind of was just a little strange to me was, I don't know that I'm necessarily a huge Albert Brooks fan in terms of him as an actor, and just, you know, his delivery of his jokes and things like that. It was fine. Like, I'm not saying I dislike him. I'm not a huge fan. He's not one that I would gravitate towards normally. But what seemed really odd to me was when he and Julia are having their conversations and he's making the jokes and the, you know, that kind of stuff. It's fine and it's funny and it's kind of cute and it's endearing and all this other stuff. The scenes, whenever he's making his other little like snide comments and things like that, they're funny. The scenes when he is in it's not really a courtroom, but when he's in the interview room and he's defending his life, he makes some of the same little snide comments or remarks or whatever. But I don't know if it's just that in those scenes, he's sitting in that chair, he's looking like so apathetic and so like, am I done yet kind of thing. They don't come across as funny in those scenes. Like it almost seemed very dark. Like I'm joking, but it's not funny. Almost like an angry kind of thing. And I was like, that the rhythm of the movie, that kind of threw me off a little bit for the rhythm of the movie. Like he's funny in all these other spots. This just seems kind of like either sad or there's like simmering anger underneath the surface. And it's not funny in these scenes. So I don't know if that was just me, but like that's kind of the vibe I got from those.
Yeah. I didn't quite analyze it that much, but I know what you're talking about. It did have a different tone to it.
Yeah.
To my notice, you know, to my recollection.
Yeah.
Going along with that, you know, just some of the dots needed to be connected for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm going to be that guy. Like, you know, I watched Star Trek. I watched Terminator. Yeah. I watched Lord of the Rings. I watched Star Wars. I like an elaborate world where the things make sense and you can connect the dots, right? So if you're building this world where it's a more secular look and you've got, you know, trams taking you from one place to the other, why were all the residents, they call them, why were the residents eating food that was unpalatable?
Because
did they explain it and it just never made any sense to me? Or
they explained it. They explained it because they said that because when it was the time when he tried it and it was disgusting, and he's like, well, he's like, you don't taste it the way I do because you're not using as much of your brain as I am. When you use this much of your brain, you have control over what things taste like. So while that tastes like animal feces to you, to me, you know, I'm using my brain. I have control over my tastes and over my sensations. And so to me, this is amazing. So that was kind of their explanation for that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well,
it was almost kind of like a little throwaway, kind of almost an unnecessary moment.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm going to call myself a foodie, but I love food, and I just don't see someone that's getting on a higher level of existence able to tolerate less quality food. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think the person on a higher level of existence will be able to notice those things, you know? I mean...
So I would imagine... So what probably would have been helpful is we needed a never feast moment from Hook, you know, because this food looks very unappetizing on his plate, and it tastes disgusting to someone who can't use as much of their brain. And it sounds like what Bob Diamond is saying is that, well, when you use as much of your brain as I do, this looks and tastes completely different because I'm using my brain to imagine it being whatever I want it to be, and it's the best, most beautiful, well-prepared, delicious dish I've ever had, kind of a thing. So I think we almost needed to have like a never feast moment from Hook, where it's like, what is this? Like I've got this pile of goo in front of me. We almost needed to see what it looks like to Bob Diamond.
Yeah. So,
because we see what it looks like. We see what it looks like from Daniel's perspective, and it looks gross.
And it also tastes that way.
Right.
But I mean, it's like, but I don't get it. Like I still, and that's the problem. If you start going down the rabbit hole of this is the afterlife, you have to explain those things.
Right. Right.
That's what.
And it was for a quick laugh. But
yeah, and I just wanted more. I just wanted more in depth, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
That's fair.
That's all I'm saying.
That's fair. All right. Patrick, I think it's time for 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right. I was very proud of Nora earlier because, as I've shared before, I do ask the 3 questions at dinner time for the rest of the family on nights when we're going to record. And I said, we sat down to eat and everybody sat down. And so I pulled my phone out. I'm like, we don't do phones at the table, but for this, I pull my phone out, I pull up the questions, and I said, okay, time for 3 questions. And immediately Nora goes into the 5 questions. No, 3 questions. Thank you.
That is awesome.
I think.
Don't you love it when like your kids just show you like, you know what? I did a good job as a father.
Mm-hmm.
When they know those little things.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like
that's awesome.
Nice job, kiddo. All right. Question number 1. If you were going to visit the Past Lives Pavilion, we didn't really talk about that very much. The Past Lives Pavilion, where you could see your past lives, what past life would you want to see?
What past life? Like, what do I hope?
Yeah. Like, would you want to see? So our discussion at the dinner table was, Nora immediately was like, I want to be Einstein. I was like, okay, all right, cool. And then John was like, I don't know. And then Sharon and I, which, of course, and then Sharon and I were like, okay, well, we need to think about this a little bit because I wouldn't want to be somebody who had a terrible end. Right? Like, I don't want to get murdered. I don't want to get, drawn and quartered, any of that kind of stuff. So we were like, you almost want to be like, you don't want to be somebody famous in history because a lot of the famous people, things didn't end well for them. So I'm like, so maybe you want to be like just south of famous in terms of a historical figure.
Right.
King Arthur's, you want to be King Arthur's stable boy.
Okay, I see where you're going with that.
Unless King Arthur's stable boy died of the plague. But, I mean, you know what I'm saying.
I do know what you're saying.
So I was trying to think of people that maybe did not have a terrible end. I was like, well, let me think of like some of my favorite writers. I'm like, nope, alcoholic. Nope, suicide. Nope, murdered. Nope. Died under mysterious circumstances. All right, well, let's not go with the writers and artists. Let's do something else. So I kind of had a hard time coming up with something. Like, part of me was like, well, I think it would be fun to look back in history and be like, I was Edgar Allan Poe, but I'm like, I don't want to have ended the way Edgar Allan Poe ended. And then like a lot of my other favorite writers and things like that, things did not end well for them. So I'm like, all right, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe Shakespeare. Maybe Shakespeare's writing assistant. I don't know.
So did you end up with anything, or is it just like you're kind of, you asked your own question and then you rejected your own question?
I kind of rejected my own question a little bit.
Okay. I hear where you're going with that.
So I can do the normal sound effect, but I can say,
John just rejected your question.
Are you saying that you were me in a former life?
maybe. Well, we had to have that discussion too, because Nora was like, I would be this actor. I'm like, isn't that actor still alive? Yeah. Like, that's not how past lives work. You can't overlap the past lives. So they have to be dead? I'm like, yes, they have to be. That's the whole thing about a past life, is they have to be dead. Oh, well, that's not cool. Because then I was going to say J.K. Rowling, but I don't want her to die yet. I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of you.
I'm sure we all, yeah.
So I don't know. I maybe said something like Shakespeare or somebody like that.
John, you rejected your own question. This is exciting. This is a first.
Hey, we're doing a lot of firsts here tonight. We've got on the air interlibrary loan signups. We've got John rejecting his own questions. It's a new day. It's a new day in America for the 30-something movie podcast.
I did not doze off once.
No, you're still awake. That's amazing.
I'm still awake.
Yeah.
I am still awake. This is exciting.
This is exciting. This is new territory for us.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Keeping it fresh.
Keeping it fresh. So what do you got? What would your past life have been?
My past life, it'd probably just be a dude just kind of like wandering. Just kind of like a nomad.
Okay.
You know, I don't know what time period.
Kung Fu, the legend continues.
You know what? Honestly, it would sort of be like Kane and Kung Fu.
Yeah.
Or did you ever watch any of that old Then Came Bronson? The guy that just kind of traveled around on his motorcycle and just,
No, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, something like that.
Yeah.
Or, I just, I'd like to think, if I get more adventures, some in my thought, maybe I'd travel around and do good things, like Kane or like the A-Team or something like, just kind of like move around. But it could be in time in history as well. Maybe I just, maybe I just walk. Maybe I just walk and run all over the earth and just wander around.
Yeah.
I love traveling. I always get excited thinking about traveling.
Yeah.
I very much love, my home and being around my family and all that kind of stuff, but I don't feel particularly tied to a house. I feel more tied to the people around. So, I mean, I could easily be a nomad.
Yeah.
I could easily just sit down and be like, okay, I'm just going to hang out in this town for the next year.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll hang out on this beach all summer. Or, there was this one guy that one of our former neighbors rode, and she had a riding partner that, I don't know if he had a house because he was retired, and he'd just ride his bike around. He would just take the entire year, and when it got cold, he'd ride down south, and he just would ride around the country, literally, and he'd visit his kids in various ends of the country, and then when spring and that, he was back up here, and then he'd connect and hang out and work up here and ride around, and then that's all he did.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
like, you just rode your motorcycle all year?
That's not a bad gig.
I'm like, dude, that's the coolest thing known to mankind. I could see doing that.
Yeah.
There's this guy that I've read about, and he fought in the Second World War. He was part of the British Secret Service, the spies. I think the pre-runner to MI6. Any event, he his name was Patrick Lee Fermor, Fermor. I'm probably horrendously mispronouncing it, but he was just a fascinating person, and it got into the Greek resistance on the island of Crete, which, I mean, you can't make the stuff up that happened with the resistance fighters. I mean, just incredible people. They're incredible stories. But before he got wrapped up with British, I think it's British Secret Service is what they call, I don't know, whatever the spies are and the undercover and all that kind of thing. He just walked from England across Europe down into North Africa and around Egypt, and he just kind of wandered and wrote. I'm not a writer, but travel logs, and I mean,
yeah. I'm
just saying, that just appeals to me. So when I look back, I mean, I really, and I got thinking about that, okay, who would I be? And, like I said, I very much love my family, and I would never leave them or just like wander off and all that kind of thing. There's nothing about that, the loyalty thing. But when I look back, I'm like, yeah, and whatever time period, just walking, running, riding the earth, surfing, boating, swimming. I don't know, just kind of going around doing stuff.
I just realized if we could go fictional, I'm going to be old Ben Kenobi.
Old Ben Kenobi.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Just, living in the desert, doing his thing, the old hermit life, like, that'd be fine.
And we're going to start to see a whole lot more of him doing his thing coming up in a couple of weeks or months here, my friend.
Yes, we are. I'm excited for that.
Yes.
All right, question number 2. What attorney would you want as your defender? This could be a real-life attorney, or it could be fictional.
Who are the attorneys that are just, maybe Vinny. Vinny was good.
Oh, that's a good one.
My cousin Vinny.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The two Utes.
I
think that'd be the off the top of my head one. What do you got?
What's a Ute? Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Youths. Let's see. Well, for mine, I was trying to think if there's another one. I mean, my answer I feel like is kind of obvious for me. I'm going to go with Atticus Finch.
Good call.
I need the Gregory Peck. Atticus Finch is going to be my defender, and that's why I'm going to be fine, and that's why I'm going to use more of checking out the big brain on John, and move to that higher plane of existence.
There it is. There it is. That would be excellent.
Because my boy Atticus he's gonna defend me. Pat, it wouldn't be the 30-something movie podcast if we didn't have a question about food. So question number 3, what is the best food item, so single item, what is the best food item at an all-you-can-eat buffet?
Oh, all right, that's hard, man. I'm going to try not to say yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And I'm going to try not to be like, I love vegetables. I love salads. So
Sure.
to be like, oh yeah, you can eat salad bar. Easy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and be good. So first of all, I love seaweed salad. Anytime I go for sushi, anytime I go to, always get seaweed salad. Mm-hmm. I have been to some Asian buffets where they just have seaweed salad sitting out. And so, nice. Oh my gosh, that is good. And I can eat my body weight in seaweed salad.
Okay.
Love it. And so I would say that would be the best food item.
I do love a good sushi. I don't think I've ever had seaweed salad.
You've never had seaweed salad?
I don't believe I have. I've had seaweed before with other, prepared with other things, but I've never had seavid salad.
Seaweed salad is very good. I mean, it's
okay. I'm intrigued.
It's usually with they'll put it with cucumbers.
Yeah.
A little dressing on. Yeah, seaweed salad is good.
Okay, I'm intrigued now.
And I'm trying not to be a jerk and just saying sushi, because there's some all-you-can-eat sushi. But maybe I'm going to be the jerk and say sushi. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
That would have been one of my answers, so you can go ahead and say it.
Yeah, maybe that'll be our collective, like sushi. So it's basically becoming, what food item can you just eat a ton of, right?
Well, yeah.
Corn on the cob, right? Like if you go to any of those, buffets that have that kind of stuff, like I'll again eat my body weight in corn on the cob.
Mm-hmm. I got to say, for my answer, and I think this was an answer that was kind of shared among some other members of the family. My answer would a lot of times, because there's all the food that's there, like all the great food, and especially depending on which buffet you're talking about. There's the meats. There's, if you're there on crab leg night, it's crab legs and all that other great stuff. I am gonna go with, oftentimes going to like these all you can eat buffets, one of the things that is always delicious every single time is the dinner rolls.
Yes.
It's like, yes. And Sharon remembered we used to have a place around here called Old Country Buffet, and that they had some and they had some dinner rolls that were kind of like had kind of like a sugar coating on top of them. So they were almost like a cross between a dinner roll and a cinnamon roll.
I remember.
And there's the restaurant that I've never been to. So maybe some of our Oklahoma friends have been there before. There is a restaurant down in Sikeston, Missouri, that is called Lambert's. And Lambert's is known as the home of the throwed roll. So the rolls are supposedly very good.
Awesome.
And we were always going to go there, but it just never got around to it. And when you want more rolls, they actually throw them at you.
That's awesome.
So you got to be on your guard. You got to have your head on a swivel.
Yep. Yeah. Those are the places you want to be.
Yeah.
All right. So rolls. I get what you're saying, man.
Yeah. The other good one is if you get a good taco buffet. That's always good stuff too.
Yes, it is.
And we did 1 year for John's birthday. We had taken a trip out to California to go to a family wedding, and we ended up at a place called John's Incredible Pizza out in California. And it was kind of like they had a bunch of video games, things like that. So it's almost like a little bit like a Chuck E. Cheese, but the rest of the place, it was like an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet. And there were all different kinds of, like, some crazy kinds of pizza, some of your normal kinds of pizza, but it was just like a pizza buffet. It's like, all right, I'm down with that.
I can get behind this idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I support this message. I approve this message.
So your question, there's different ways to look at your question. I think for food item, like you answered the rolls, and I said like corn on the cob or like seaweed salad. But if you go like, what is the buffet that you're like, okay, we're in the town of all you can eat buffets. Where am I going?
Mm-hmm.
Man, pizza buffet, sushi buffet, a taco buffet. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just going to say I'm a sucker for the salad bar.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like the salad bar is it calls to me, John. It calls to me.
Oh, I understand. I can I could mess myself up on a good salad bar.
Oh man, I can do some damage. You can make some money.
Mm-hmm.
You can make some money at those places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Patrick, before we get too hungry, we probably need to say goodbye to the folks before we get too hungry, and maybe you can go watch Soul and have some seaweed salad.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Either that, or I'm gonna go dig in my fridge and find some food. I'm hungry.
I know we always do this like every single time.
I know.
We need to find some we need to find some restaurants that'll give us sponsorship here.
We need to get sponsored
because we talk food all the time.
We do talk food because food is good.
Yeah,
food is good. Good food is good.
We need a. I don't know that I feel comfortable doing one of those like Manscaped ads, for the podcast. I don't. The Shirley podcast guys, they have that ad on there, and I kind of chuckled with them, one time, about having that ad. I'm like that is hilarious. I don't know that I would necessarily do that, but just because I don't know if I could keep a straight face while reading that. But if there's like a Manscaped version of food, I don't know what that is. Like that sounds wrong now.
Yeah, I know where you're going with that.
You know where I'm going with it.
The other thing is, as we are all teachers, if our kids ever stumbled onto our podcast, I don't know that they'd want me doing reads for that.
Yeah, no. Because I know for a fact that mine listened to the show, so I'm like, I don't think I need to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, probably just won't do that. Yeah. But,
we'll sidestep that.
But live vicariously through others, I guess.
Exactly, but if we could make some.
Or in our case, try to eat vicariously through others.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, Patrick, it's been fun
John,
as always.
It has been a good life, my friend.
It has been. I think we've defended our lives well.
I think so, and it was a good movie. People check it out, but 97%.
Yeah.
On Rotten Tomatoes. So.
All right.
Okay.
You know what? I'm a little surprised now. His track record, at least from what we saw in the movie, is probably why I didn't choose him. I'm a little bit surprised that for your defender, for your attorney that you were going to use, I'm a little bit surprised that you didn't choose Councilman Worf.
Okay. Well, there's that.
I kind of thought maybe you might go with him. Now, granted, the only case we ever see him in, he loses, but you know.
You know what? This is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, I should have picked Jean-Luc Picard.
Oh yeah.
I should have picked JLP. I mean, seriously, you look at what that guy does. Like, you know.
Yeah.
That guy would have been Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's
thought-provoking
that's
episode.
Right. Very, very thought-provoking. So don't forget to check out our sponsor and the rest of the shows in the Scene Stealers Retro Podcast Network. Go over to scenestealersglobal.com. Check us out at 30podcast.com and at 30podcast on most of the different social media outlets. Our next episode's coming up this month for Patreon. We've got favorite TV shows of 1991. So if you're a co-executive producer, you'll have access to that one. If you're not, support us at any level on Patreon and you get access to those. There's all kinds of other benefits on there as well. And then we've got coming up next week, What About Bob? After that, it's The Doors. After that is The Fisher King. And then for December, as we round off our year, we're almost done with 91, my friend. Our Patreon for December is It's a Wonderful Life from 1946. And then we've got Night on Earth, The Guyver, My Own Private Idaho, Homicide, and City Slickers. So all kinds of good stuff coming up. So we're looking forward to all that. Patrick, thank you so much as always for being here with me.
Thank you, John. This was a lot of fun.
All right, everybody, be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies. We'll see you back here next time.